After doing the video on floating cities, I thought I'd follow it up with similar comments about just the way we build our cities and our houses and how we could, if we wanted to, make them places of much greater independence. Now, there's some people who reacted to the floating city video as if, oh, that's absolutely crazy. You're out of your mind. We're not going to do that. Well, we're not doing it. We could, but we're not. And I think a similar reaction to this will probably follow. No, we're not going to do these things. I wish we would. I so wish we would. But notice in all of these cases, I'm talking about things that would give us much more independence. They would also be better for the environment. They would be better for our health. You can just go through so many boxes that people who claim to be progressive and to be concerned about the planet. You can check all of those boxes, and yet we're not doing these things because why? Because they would deliver into our hands more political independence. We'd be able to make more decisions on our own. So let me start with a little story about I grew up in Texas, and I remember going to the grocery store. I had read about prickly pear cactus. They're actually a very good source for antioxidant. An antioxidant is something that we should all be interested in consuming as much as we can. So I was browsing around looking for these. You find them sometimes at least in the Southwest. You can find them in grocery stores in bottles called nopalitos. Nopales are what the Mexicans call prickly pear. A nopal is a prickly pear cactus. And there, of course, the rind has been taken off and they've been chopped up usually. They don't really have much of a taste and they have a very slick, off-putting kind of texture. But I was talking to the guy who was putting the vegetables out, who happened to be of Mexican descent, about this. And he got really interested that somebody was asking about this. And so we discussed what you use them for. And I found that what he said was quite true. You can put them in omelets, or I put them in tacos, and you really don't taste them. But what they do is they bring out the taste of other things that they're mixed in with. And this is, to me, illustrative of the kind of the Mexicans that I knew when I was growing up. These were people of the earth who understood how to take dirt, which was often more sand than dirt, and a little bit of rainwater with some irrigation, perhaps a whole lot of sun. And these are people who knew how to take what they were given and to eke out a living. It wasn't a lavish, luxurious living, but they kept body and soul together. And frankly, some of the stuff that they ate was a whole lot better for them than some of the stuff that we're eating now. Now, this is sort of a microcosm, a small version of what we're all going through, I think, in our postmodern world. As we're crowded into cities and we're in pursuit of higher wages, we all want to make money because we need money to buy the necessities and also go have a good time and pay our rent and everything else. Well, the Mexicans that are coming into our country now are not the people that I knew when I was growing up. They're younger people. They don't seem to have the wisdom of the land that their grandfathers had. They want the jobs in the cities. They want the money. They're like the rest of us, you know. And all of us have forgotten how to eat, how to use sun and rain and land, how to grow things to eat. I'm at my old age, I'm trying to rediscover this because I think it's important. For instance, I've discovered that you can grow sweet potatoes. It's kind of like eating cactus in the middle of the desert. You can grow sweet potatoes too with practically nothing. You don't even need soil. You can just have leaf litter, pile the leaves on top of them, and especially give them some shade. They don't like a lot of southwestern sun, but you can get a whole bunch of sweet potatoes by November that way. This is, I think, really cool. It tells me that even in our cities, if we had racks on the sides of skyscrapers, we could actually grow what they call hydroponic tomatoes and other vegetables that wouldn't even really need soil. We could, of course, use the rooftops of our buildings to create hothouses and grow all kinds of things. But even, in a big city where you have all of that surface area that's mostly going upward, you could even use that seriously. You might not want to use it down toward ground level because there'd be so much smog and soot that the vegetables would ingest that and they wouldn't be fit to eat. But just think of how much quieter a place the city would be, and how much the mood of people who have to live there would improve. I don't know why, but it's just an established psychological fact that we human beings, I'm sure it has something to do with our evolution, but we like being around the color green, let alone around plants. If you go to a doctor's office, it often has an aquarium and some potted plants and things. Why is that? Because it relaxes you. And just think if our cities were covered with stuff like that, and it would be, it's practical. If all of us crowding into these big cities suddenly don't have a wage, a salary, if the economy should collapse, and frankly it will sooner or later, because so many urban dwellers are dependent upon government checks of one kind or another, and we're so deep in debt, the dollar is going to crash, or something else will happen to the economy. It will. And then what are we all going to do when we don't have the knowledge of how to grow any of our own food? Food riots, and then the police are called out, and it's just a nightmare scenario. I hate to say it, but I think some people actually want to precipitate that for their own evil ends. But we don't want to go there. We don't want to be like that. So why couldn't we apply ourselves to growing some of what we need? It doesn't. It's like the little campesino in Chihuahua. It doesn't take him a whole lot to get by. It wouldn't take us. We wouldn't eat like kings, but it wouldn't take us a whole lot to produce something so that we would get by if our job suddenly evaporated and we weren't getting any checks anymore from the authorities. We could do this certainly in suburbia too. One of my favorite things, one of my ideas was always, I have lived in several houses, and all of them have had, the space above the ceiling, the crawl space up there. That's always a problem because in the summer it gets really hot, and in the winter it can be quite cold. So you have all this insulation that has to be blown in, and it's just wasted space, really. But it does pose a problem, an energy problem. You have to do something with it so the place doesn't become uninhabitable down below. Well, if you had a greenhouse up there, and we could do this now because we have glass that, ballistic caliber glass that wouldn't be broken by a hailstorm, we could create greenhouses on top of our residential houses in suburbia. And in the summer, you'd open up the vents and you'd let the air circulate, as we're doing with our ceilings right now. And it would be a literally cool place. It would cool off the rest of the house. You could actually go up there and sit down with a cool drink and watch the plants grow and relax at the end of your hard day. And there's some of your food. That's the point. You're, even if your job goes south, you don't, while you're looking for another job, you're not completely looking at the prospect of an empty table. You got stuff up there that's growing year round. In the wintertime, you close up the vents, the glass heats it up, the heat goes down into the house, you save on your heating bills. These are examples that I'm trying to grope after here of things we could do that would be environmentally friendly. They would make us healthier. They would make us more independent. We would be a freer people. We'd know more instead of our kids being taught a bunch of hyper political claptrap in school. They would actually learn about the earth, about natural cycles, about how things grow, about biology. We would be more understanding of the limits of life, of what biological life is like. It would be a better world, and we'd be wiser, and we would be freer. Why don't we do stuff like this? Is it just because nobody else has thought of this? I don't have that high an opinion of my intelligence. I'm sure other people have thought of things far beyond what I've said in the short video, but I just have this sneaking suspicion that we don't do stuff like this because there are people who don't want us to be independent. We have to be dependent on that wage, whether a private sector or public sector is paying it out to us. That's where they want us. But that's not good for us. We need to think about how we can be healthier for ourselves and for the planet and be freer, because we can do that all at once.